I'm Marin, and this is Post-its and Pens. Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Marin, and here you will find a little beauty, a little books, and a little teaching content. So if that sounds like something you might enjoy, I would love for you to subscribe and stick around and join me in my little corner of YouTube. Today's video is going to be my December reading wrap up for 2021. So let's go ahead and get into the video. Now, the majority of the books that I read in December were library books, so I no longer have the actual physical book to show you, so I will be putting the cover over here just in case, you're curious why I'm not holding the book up. They were library books. So I'm going to go ahead and start this one off a little bit differently. I'm going to talk about the list of books that I said I was going to read for my monthly TBR. I will let you know if I read them, and then we will go ahead and get into my thoughts on the ones that I did read. So here we go. Okay, so for my December TBR, I had taken all of the books from previous TBRs that I hadn't read and I rolled them into December. So the first one was Here Lies Daniel Tate by Cristin Terrill, which I did read. That was a rollover from August. The next two were rollovers from October, so it was Storybound by Marissa Burt, which I read part of and then DNF'd. And then the other one was Once We Were by Zhang, which I decided I no longer wanted to read. The final book that rolled over was My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. That also rolled over from October, and I did read that one. The other books were all on my 21 books to read in 2021 list, so those I'm going to just chunk together. I had 6 books from that list that I still needed to read, and I read all of them except for one. So we'll talk about that in a minute. But I'm going to go ahead and start off. So the first book that I finished in the month of December was My Heart is a Chainsaw by Stephen Graham Jones. Now, I am not the audience that was intended to read this book because I'm not personally a fan of slasher films. And in this book, we are following our main character, Jade, who is a lover of slasher films. So for her, she lives and breathes slashers. Now, I had watched some of them, like Scream, I Know What You Did Last Summer. So I did have a little bit of knowledge with some of the references she was making, but I was not the target audience. So with that in mind, I gave this one 3 stars. I felt like it took a very long time to set up, and then the ending was very rushed. It was just like bam, 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 all of this stuff happening right at the end, and I didn't love the pacing of that. Also, again, I'm not the target audience, so some of it was a little gross, a little much for me. Overall, I did enjoy the book, hence the 3 stars, and I am going to read the sequel because I am curious to see what comes next, because I felt like, so this book has an open ending, just throwing that out there, which was fine. So I am curious to see what's going to happen next, because this is a trilogy. So I'm very curious to see what he's doing with that. But all in all, this was a 3-star read for me, and it was my first book of December. The next book that I read in a single sitting. I did a reading vlog on this one, so I'll link that up above, but it was Here Lies Daniel Tate by Cristin Terrill. And y'all, this was one of my favorite books of the year. This was a mystery thriller following a boy who is a con artist. He lies and says that he is this missing child that went missing several years earlier. And so the family takes him in, but he's not that child. So it's basically following what happens once this family adopts him and kind of the fallout of that. I loved this book. It was a super fast read. I had also read All Our Yesterdays by Cristin Terrill this year, and she's definitely one of my favorite authors now. She has a new book coming out in 2022 that I'm very excited to read because this one was fantastic. I would highly recommend this one. I gave it 5 stars. The next book was one of the books off of my 21 books to read in 2021 list, which was Far From You by Tess Sharpe. This is one that got a lot of hype when it was released back in like 2013 or so, and I can see why it had so much hype. I really, really enjoyed this one. It follows our main character whose best friend is killed, and everyone blames our main character because they believe that they were out buying drugs because the main character had a drug habit that she has since recovered from. She's a recovering addict, and so they blamed her for being out in this part of the woods because this is a known kind of drug buying hotspot. So they blamed her for the friend's death. So basically this follows their friendship, their lives. You learn some secrets about the two girls, their families. I really enjoyed this one. Tess Sharpe is someone that I'm definitely going to read more of, so I would highly recommend this one. I gave this one 4 stars. The next book that I tried to read was a sequel that had rolled over from November, and that was The Forever Song by Julie Kagawa. I got about 40% into this book before I realized that I simply did not care how this book was going to end. I didn't care if the virus was released and killed everybody. I didn't care if the main character got a revenge. I just didn't care. So I stopped reading it because I realized that that was not a reading experience that I was going to want to put myself through. So this was a DNF for December and another series crossed off my list. Unfortunate that it didn't end in the way I wanted it to, but it is what it is. The next book that I finished was Columbine by Dave Cullen. This was another book from my 21 books to read in 2021, and this book follows the shooting at Columbine High School back in 1999. There is kind of some switching in the narrative. So we get like the lead up to the shooting, the actual shooting, the aftermath, but it kind of flips back and forth. And it also intersperses quotes and things from the journals that the killers were keeping, like leading up to the shooting. It follows a lot of what the victims' families and the survivors' families have done since the shooting, things like that. I really, really enjoyed this one. Very highly researched. Dave Cullen was actually one of the reporters that was following the shooting when it occurred. And so he is like fully admitting that he was part of the problem because a lot of the things that came out later disputed what people were saying about the shooting when it initially happened. So I just thought this was a very well done overall look at Columbine and kind of what Columbine has set off in terms of school shootings, mass shootings in the United States. So would highly recommend this one if it sounds at all like something you would want to read. I loved it, 5 stars. The next book is another one that I pretty much read in one single day, and that was The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This follows our main character who is told that she is going to inherit this multi-billionaire's estate, but she does not know who this person is. She doesn't know why she's been chosen. She has to go live in the mansion with the deceased families, the deceased's family members who want nothing to do with her. There's some puzzles, some mysteries to untangle. I loved this. I don't know why I waited so long to read it because this is right up my alley. This is exactly the kind of book that I enjoy, and I'm very much looking forward to finishing the rest of the series in 2022. This was another book from my 21 books to read in 2021 list. Definite hit. I gave this one 4 stars. Next up, we had Codename Verity by Elizabeth Wein, which was another book off my 21 books to read in 2021 list. I'm sure you're tired of me saying it. This follows 2 girls during World War II. One of them was like an undercover spy. The other one was a pilot. And the spy gets caught in France. She's captured by the Gestapo. She's brought in and she's told that she needs to tell them what they want to know or they're going to kill her. So she is telling the story of her and Maddie, who is the pilot, their friendship, how they met, what happened later, all the while kind of detailing her experience with the Gestapo while she's in prison. So for the majority of this book, I was thinking this would be a 4-star read, and then it hit the last little chunk, and y'all, it was 5 stars. This one is very heavy on like military terms though, so if that's not your thing, you probably aren't gonna like this. The author is a pilot, and you can tell she has a lot of experience and knowledge of airplanes. That makes its way into the book, but I really loved this one. Would highly recommend it if historical fiction is your thing. I gave this one 5 stars, and I am definitely going to read the rest in the series, although you don't need to read them in order. You can read them whenever, but loved this one. Okay, we're almost finished. The next book was Sword of Summer by Riordan. This was the first book in the Magnus Chase series. So this follows Magnus, who finds out that he is a demigod. He is the son of a Norse god, and kind of what happens after that. So this is a middle grade series that I had been putting off because I felt like it was just going to be a rehash of Percy Jackson, and it is. It is. But Magnus was very funny, just like Percy. I did like the action and adventure, the cast of characters that kind of surrounds Magnus, and I am going to read the rest of the series, especially since I realized that it's only 3 books, not 5 books. So I do have the second one right here I will get to at some point because I did really enjoy it. It was a great, humorous, fun book with action, adventure, twists and turns, things like that. So I did enjoy it. I gave this one 4 stars, and it's another winner from Riordan. He knows what he's doing. He's got his way of writing that he knows works. The next book was Storybound by Marissa Burt. For this one, I got about 30% in, and I realized it was not my thing. It is a middle grade about a girl who falls into a story world where you are trained to be like a specific thing. So like a knight, a princess, a lady in waiting, etc. So she's not supposed to be there. She falls into the world, and the story is supposed to detail like why she's there, what happens, that kind of thing. But I just wasn't interested. It read very young, which I don't have a problem with, but that's just not what I was wanting from it. So I DNF'd it at 30%, and it's off of my TBR now. And the final book that I read in 2021 was The Archived by Victoria Schwab. Now, I am a sucker for anything that has to do with libraries. Any books that involve libraries, I'm probably going to pick up. And this one had a special twist because this one is a library of the dead, where like once you die, your soul, body, whatever, sits on the shelf and can be read by librarians to kind of learn your history and things like that. Our main character, Mackenzie, lost her brother prior to the start of the book, and she is a keeper. So it's her job to make sure that people who have passed away, if they wake up from their sleep, that they don't escape into the outer world. She was trained by her grandfather, who she calls Da, and it's just tracking kind of what happens once she moves into her new home. Now, this one I liked, but I expected to like it more. So in the end, I gave this one like 3.5 stars, 3 stars on Goodreads, because I just wanted more from it. So when you read a book, you expect there to be some kind of character growth or change or something along with the plot, and I didn't feel like Mackenzie really changed at all in the book. And I feel like she should have. Some of the things that she went through, I feel like should have had enough of an impact on her where some things would have changed. but I don't feel like I got that. I also felt like the climax of the book, when things come to light, was a little rushed. I know that this is the first book in what was supposed to be a trilogy, but she has not written the third book, and the second one came out in like 2014 or something like that. So I don't really have any interest in continuing on with the series, since there's not like a hard and fast end to the series. Maybe if she ever releases that third book, I might check out the other two, but I just expected more from Mackenzie's journey, more from the story, I guess, and I didn't get that. So that was pretty disappointing. I still enjoyed it. It was a very fast read, but just 3 stars for me. And now we're going to talk about 2 books that I was supposed to read in December that I didn't get to. So the first one is Poison Study by Maria V. Snyder. As you can see, I am about halfway through. I am on chapter 18, page 201. I'm really enjoying this one, but I go through spurts where after I read for a long time, I just need to take a bit of a break. And that's kind of what happened with this one. I had gone through several books right in a row, and I just needed to kind of take a breather. So this one kind of fell to the wayside. I am really enjoying this. So this is about a girl named Yelena who is offered the chance at life. She is in prison because she killed somebody. She's offered the position of being the commander's food taster, or she can die. So obviously she becomes the food taster, and this is like what happens after. So there's some magic in here. It's fantasy without being high epic fantasy, which is not my thing. So I'm really enjoying this. I'm hoping that I can finish this today. I don't have very much left. I have about half the book left. So I'm hoping I can finish this and make this my first book of 2022. But this one did not get done in December, and I'm okay with that. And the second book that I also did not read that I was supposed to read was Invincible by Dawn Metcalf. This is the final book in her Twixt series. There's 4 books in the series. This is the last one. It's about a girl who realizes that she can see fairies, or the Twixt. She can see the people of the Twixt, which she's not supposed to be able to do. There's a romance between her and another person, he's not really a person, but anyway, another being of the Twixt. And I've really enjoyed this one. It's kind of a unique story. It's a fairy story without being your typical fairy story, and this is the final book. I am not very far into it yet. I've only gotten to like page 50, so I'm hoping I can knock both Poison Study and Invincible out in the last weekend of my break, which is today and tomorrow, but we'll see. I'm not too mad that I didn't get them read. I knew that that was quite a vast number of books to try to read in a single month for me, but yeah, 2 books isn't too bad to roll over into 2022, even though I was really hoping I could give myself a clean slate. But anyway, those were all of the books that I read or was supposed to read for December 2021. So all in all, I'm really pleased with my reading. So I DNF'd 2 books. I didn't even start one of them. I just gave up on that before it even started. And I read 8 books, which is a very good number for me, considering how typically I'm maybe lucky to get 5. So I read 8 books, DNF'd 2, which would bring that total to 10. And then I have 2 that I've started that I haven't finished, which would be 12. So pretty good month, I feel like. So not too mad about it. Now, before I sign off this video, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up my 2021 reading with some stats. I'm just going to use the information that Goodreads gives you. So I'm going to pull it up and kind of just go through it. So I'm going to just kind of pop it right here. I'll move over a little bit so you can see the actual screen. But my year in books, it says I read 32,261 pages. I finished 90 books. That does include my DNFs. I did put those into that total because I feel like those count. Says my average book length in 2021 was 358 pages. My average rating was 3.9 stars. I had a pretty good reading year in terms of ratings because I was very particular about what I wanted to read, so that helps. And now I'm just gonna do some like screenshots right here of the books that I read. So screenshot number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, number 5, number 6, number 7, number 8, number 9, and number 10. So I'm very pleased with my reading. 90 books is a lot more than I managed last year. I think last year I only managed like 20, maybe 25. So that is one thing that booktubing has done for me, is that it has helped me increase my reading, but not to an astronomical number. 90 was pretty attainable. There were only a few times throughout the year where I was really pushing myself to finish books, and since I had summer break, so June and July basically, I was free to read whatever I wanted. I didn't really feel rushed or stressed, which was good. So anyway, yes, that is a look at my year-end stats. So if you enjoyed this video, please leave me a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel if you would like to see more from me, and I will see you in my next video. Bye everyone.